Hey, welcome to the Behind Enemy Lines Sports Podcast with Brandon Matthews. This is he, Brandon Matthews. Been a long time, or at least feels like it. So, I guess just not going to waste too much time. Just going to start off with follow me on Instagram, Behind Enemy Line Sports. Follow my YouTube, Behind Enemy Line Sports, where you'll find me doing YouTube videos and video versions of the podcast. You can also find me on Twitter at BRANM2012. Brandon 2012. So let's just cut the shit and get right into it. So, this last weekend we had UFC Vegas 36, I think. Derek Brunson versus Darren Till. Wait. Yes. They should have D's in their name. Derek Brunson versus Darren Till. This fight was interesting, and we found out a lot since the fight happened, but Derek Brunson won via rear naked choke in the third round with 2 minutes 15 seconds left. 13 seconds. Yeah. Man, I don't know what's up with Darren Till. Well, I do know what's up now. But during the fight, I was thinking, man, Darren Till just does. This is not the Darren Till that I saw fight Robert Whittaker and basically go toe to toe. And I remember one of the commentators said something to the effect of that fight, like, both guys are just on edge because the fight could end in a matter of an instance. And that's honestly what it felt like when you watched Robert Whittaker versus Darren Till. This fight, though, Darren Till just did not seem with it. On the feet, striking it was all right when it was on the feet, when he was on his feet. But Derek Brunson definitely came in with his game plan of take him down, ground and pound. And I will say, Derek Brunson did a really good job at that. And it wasn't even like one of those take him down, grind it out type of wins. I mean, I honestly thought Derek Brunson was going to knock out Darren Till from the ground and pound. And man, that's the type, if I'm going to watch a guy who's going to implement a take him down and beat him up strategy, do it that way. Soften him up to get a submission or something, but Derek Brunson, I'll say hats off to him because going into this fight, I honestly thought Darren Till was going to be the winner of this fight. Darren just... he just didn't look right. And then going into the days after, come to find out, I guess, he actually had a torn, I believe, MCL going into this fight. But knowing Darren's history with his past couple fights, it's like he had to drop a fight against Marvin Vettori because of a broken collarbone. And I completely understand where he's coming from with, not wanting to pull out of another fight. Because if he pulled out of this fight, he would have been out just about as much time. No, probably more. No, I don't know. It depends on what this tear, how serious the tear is. If it's a complete tear, I mean, the rehab and everything would take a long time. So I can understand where he's coming from. And plus, you don't get paid if you don't fight unless you have other things going on outside of the organization. I just hope Darren Till gets back. I do think a lot of people are giving him more crap than he probably deserves. I say that mainly because everyone seems to be forgetting that Darren Till, what he's... And I guess this is just by nature of the sport. You're only as good as your last win. And Darren Till has lost his last fight, and he's been on kind of a losing streak. I believe he's 1-4 or 1-5 in his last... 1-4 in his last 5. So he's kind of on a skid, but dude's young. I mean, he's got so much more time left in the sport. He's on the right side of 30. So especially when we're talking MMA, I mean, some of these guys can fight well into their mid to late 30s, and even the really good ones can fight into their 40s. And Darren Till's only like 27 or 28, so he's still got a lot of time. He's still going to develop a lot throughout the next couple years. And yeah, props to him. Derek Brunson on the other, not props to Darren Till. I think Michael Bisping says the right word. Commiserations to Darren Till. Praise to Derek Brunson. The guy came out and showed me something that I haven't seen from him at least. And I understand I'm not like completely pieced together the history of Derek Brunson, and I'm rambling at this point. So I'm going to wrap it up quickly. But I haven't really seen too much of Derek Brunson's fights prior to this. Going into this week's set of fights, my studying wasn't as thorough as I wanted to be, but that's because I was studying for college. But I did do a little bit, and I'm happy for Derek Brunson. I do think Derek Brunson I think he should fight Izzy at some point, but man, I do see where Izzy's coming from. Wants to fight different names because he's fought in Robert Whitaker, and it's looking like that might be one of his next fights. I mean, he beat Costa. He hasn't fought Darren Till. He, yeah. Anyways, it's just Derek Brunson. I think he should be in line for a fight, but at the same time, Izzy's already beat him, so that might hold him back a little bit from getting that fight. Okay, on to the next one. Tom Aspinall versus Serghei Spivac. This fight was also good. So Tom Aspinall won round 1 at 2 minutes 30 seconds. This fight was also good. I think it just goes to show that Tom Aspinall, as a heavyweight, he's climbing them ranks. The dude definitely is a formidable foe for a lot of these guys that I've seen him fight. And I can only imagine what it's going to be like when he fights a Derek Lewis or a Curtis Blades. Who else? There's so many good names up there that, Tom Aspinall, I think, he's still young in the sport, but he's very athletic. I think that's super obvious. I mean, for all we know, we could be seeing, we already have someone like Serghei. Tom Aspinall, I'm not saying Tom Aspinall's on the same level as technical striking and all that stuff, but athletic big men. I think that is where the heavyweight division is heading going into the next 10 years. Because seeing how some of these guys move, I mean, even Derek Lewis kind of shows little instances or little spurts of athleticism. I mean, he's not completely unathletic. But I mean, when you see some of these other heavyweight guys, I mean, you can tell, the unathletic dudes from the athletic dudes. And I think what's starting to happen, and I don't know if I'm right, but I think what's starting to happen is, rather than, guys like Tom Aspinall, Serghei, or whoever, going into, traditionally common sport like football, or in their case maybe rugby, or just something along those lines, something physical along those lines. I think a lot of more guys you see, I'm just gonna say NFL caliber level athletic people, maybe we'll start to see more of those guys come into the league. I mean, we already have Greg Hardy, and I'm not saying he's super duper athletic, but I mean, on an NFL roster, I would say probably more than 2/3 of the entire roster could be heavyweight fighters. So maybe we're starting to see the evolution of a more athletic heavyweight. Anyways, I rambled a lot for that one, but Tom Aspinall looked great. He started the fight, came out, quick, and just started putting it on Serghei. I mean, it stayed on the feet. Serghei did try to take down Tom at one point, and it didn't really work out. Actually, no, I'm sorry, he didn't. But it did end on the ground, that's for sure. But that's because the way the fight ended, the sequence was Tom and Serghei were in a clinch situation, basically in the middle of the ring, and Tom just threw the best short elbow and completely caught Serghei off guard. Watching it in real time, you almost think that the knee that Tom threw right before his elbow is what put down Serghei. My initial thought was he hit the liver, but the liver isn't on the side of the body that he need. But then in the replay, you saw this quick little elbow, and it immediately opens up Serghei's eyebrow, and it was weird. I can almost guess what the sensation was like, just based on getting hit by something that you aren't expecting. He probably, since he wasn't expecting that, it probably took him by surprise, because you see him kind of take a step back, but then he just crumbles back. And then the fight ended from there. Tom didn't really have to do anything else. I believe it was Herb Dean jumped in immediately, and the fight was over. So Tom Aspinall, good job. He wants to slow roll his way, which I completely understand. I think he's doing the right thing. He's jumping up to the next spot, and he's saying he only wants to fight the next guy in front of him. I think it's a smart move. I mean, because more than likely his current contract isn't exactly very rich. So keep fighting these guys. Keep taking, the lower ranked fighters until you get that next contract, and then unlock your and then get up there with those big boys. I would like to see a Tom Aspinall fight someone like Curtis Blades. Mainly because I want to see Tom Aspinall fight someone who's a wrestler. Not that I think Tom's going to struggle necessarily. I just want to see how he looks. So, there's that. Next one, Alex Morono versus David Zawada. This was a good fight. It went to a unanimous decision for Alex Morono. Man, these two dogs. These guys just dogged it out the entire fight. Alex Morono, props to him. He doesn't look super intimidating. I'm not saying that's a prerequisite for fighting, but, you look at him, you don't think about an intimidating person. But listening to the commentary team talk about how he is all in on the sport. He watches every UFC event. And if he isn't watching every event, he's watching every welterweight fight. So that does a lot of his studying right there, I'm sure. Going into a fight, especially, with welterweights. He already knows the fighters. He's seen the fights that they've been in. And I'm sure he probably studies while he's watching them. So, but it definitely looked like he was very educated on Zawada's movements and what he likes to do. Because, I don't know. I should know. I do know. He wasn't afraid to get hit, so he would take the punches, but he always followed up with combinations, and he always threw the last punch, and he tried to always be first on the first punch, and it was just like, I think from a technical standpoint, he did everything he should have been doing. I think maybe his defense just needs to improve a little bit because he did get hit a lot, but he did more damage than he took, so not much else to that fight. It was straightforward, just a dog fight, two guys going at it, and Alex Morono took the dub, so there we go. Next, Modesta Bukauskas and Khalil Rountree. This one came with a little controversy. So Khalil Rountree ended up winning via TKO in the second round with 2 minutes 30 seconds. He beat Modestas via a knee kick as he was throwing a jab. So this move is something that I've seen a lot of fighters do. First person that comes to mind is Yoel Romero. I've seen him do this a lot, especially against, I think it was Robert Whittaker. He actually hurt Robert Whittaker with this particular kick. And supposedly, this is the first time in UFC history that this kick has caused an injury. So, take that for what you will. A lot of people think it should be banned. I don't think it should. I'll get into that in a minute. But Khalil Rountree, perfect timing. I rewatched this fight a couple times because I wanted to see, so the funny thing about this ending is at the end when he was being interviewed by Michael Bisping, Michael started off with, "Good job, Khalil. None of us, I'm sure none of us wanted to see it end like this." Khalil, straight up, he's like, we trained for this. We knew he liked to jab. He knew he liked to plant when he jabbed. Completely 100% intentional. But I don't think that's a bad thing. I think, it's a legitimate move. Just like you can heel hook someone until you blow out their knee, or you can head kick someone until they're concussed. This is just one of those things. It's a move. It's a kick. Unfortunately, it's a type of kick that, if done the right way and in a perfect situation, you're going to hurt your opponent. And that's exactly what happened. Khalil just waited for the right situation, the right jab, and right there it was real quick. He just Modesta came in with his jab, planted his right foot, I believe it was, and Khalil just quick, bam, right on his knee, dropped him immediately. Fight was over. I think Khalil looked great. I've watched a few of his fights, and I actually really like Khalil Rountree. I think he's an interesting person. If you've never seen his interview with Joe Rogan, highly recommend going and see it. Dude's super humble, very intelligent, and he just wants to get better. So I think that's what's happened. I think Khalil Rountree, I know he's bounced around in his weight classes a little bit. I believe this was his first light heavyweight fight, and I think he came out quick and strong. I believe he was looking for the knockout, but this is pure assumption. But I do think he intentionally came out that way to see if he could end the fight in the first round. But I think after a certain period of time, maybe in their strategy, they figured, okay, after the first 3 minutes of this, let's just go ahead and get to the game plan. or at least get to the other part of the game plan and go from there. And I think once he slowed down a little bit and started picking his punches a bit better, he still looked really good. So I don't think he burned himself out or anything like that. And Modestas, I mean, he looked good too. I mean, he took a lot of punches initially, got beat up significantly in the first round right away, but started to kind of get his way back into it. He started landing on Khalil Rountree a bit, but Khalil knew ultimately what he was trying to do. So, and he achieved that, and he won. And I hope he continues on this path of victory, because I think Khalil Rountree is a cool fighter. I think he's yet to reach his pinnacle, his peak of his ability. So I'm excited to see his next fight. And as far as Modestas, I hope, I haven't heard anything about his MRI, if his knee's okay, but I hope his knee's okay, or at least, not damaged so badly that he's going to be out for years, or not years, but, years time or anything like that. But if he is, I hope he can come back better than ever. Oh, Paddy the Batty. I'm just going to restart the video right now because, we got other news going on. So, 1 second. And we're back. Okay, so Paddy the Batty Pimblett versus Luigi Vendramini. And I should have drank some water. Okay. This fight was also really good. This ended in the first round. TKO punches by Paddy Pimblett. And it was with 4 minutes and 25 seconds left in the fight. Man, I thought Paddy was going to lose initially because Luigi looked really good. I mean, I've seen Luigi fight before, and I knew the guy's no slouch. So I was like, when I saw the matchup, I thought, okay, I kind of like this. It gives Paddy a bit of a test coming in, especially for someone who didn't quite know who Paddy was until he got signed into the UFC. I think it was maybe like a month or two before he got signed, I first heard of him, and I looked into him and saw, who he was. And then when he got signed, I was like, wow, what perfect timing, and to find out about someone. But anyways, fight started. Luigi looked good. I mean, I don't want to say he was piecing up Paddy, but he was definitely, dang, Seattle Mariners just lost to Houston. Damn! Paddy was just, he was taking more punches than I expected him to. And the first thing I noticed about the way he was fighting was his defense. And it was funny because that became what the commentators started talking about. But first thing I realized, his hands were hanging low. He was standing straight up. And then I heard Michael Bisping talk about his chin. And I was like, yeah, that's not good. Or at least, it could be detrimental. And almost was, because Luigi landed, I believe, a left hook. And I was just like, perfect. Wobbled Paddy. And I was like, oh boy, this might be the beginning of the end for him. But Paddy hung in there. I mean, tough mother effer. I mean, he acted, it was like maybe a split second. He was wobbled, but then he was back in it. And I think Luigi got a little overconfident once he rocked him, because Paddy caught him with some real good shots, and ultimately was able to catch him coming in with a nice little, I think it was a hook or something, and wobbled Luigi, and then from that point on it was over. Paddy just kind of took over from there. Clearly was trying to finish the fight, and did. Exciting. I mean, I know from what I was listening to and from what I've seen in his previous fights, he does like to, he's good on the ground, but he, I guess, clearly has some striking ability too. So this is lightweight. I don't know who I would like to see Paddy fight next, but I'm sure the next step up in competition is right around the corner. I have a feeling he'll probably end up fighting again this year, more than likely in December, unless he gets cleared medically, pretty fast. So, yeah, I think that's all I want to talk about with that. And Paddy the Batty. And actually, I mean, there were, I don't quite remember the undercard too well, but flies in here. But we definitely have other news going on. I mean, I think today is Tuesday, September 7th. We are 2 days away from the first game of the NFL season. I think it's not Green Bay. I don't remember who it is. But we have NFL news. Um, I think probably where I'm going to start is with Tom Brady and some comments he made regarding defense and how the league has evolved over the years and defense or making it harder for defenders to actually tackle players and be aggressive and do what they're supposed to do. I'm going to read the quote because it's a lot easier than kind of summing it up. But basically, Tom Brady says a quarterback should only throw the ball to certain places because your receiver is in danger of getting hit, Brady said. Brady brought up how... Oh, yeah, and this is from ESPN, by the way. I want to make sure to say who this was. Actually, do I have it up? Oh, dang. I don't. Oh, I do. Oh, this was from a video, actually. And the video... I don't know. I should have gotten the video ready, but I just got the quotes. I took the quotes off of CBS NFL, but they quoted it off the video, which I did watch, but I ended up not catching who published it. But anyways. So, what Tom Brady was saying. So Brady brought up how when he played against the legendary Baltimore Ravens linebacker Ray Lewis, he wouldn't throw to the middle of the field because Lewis would knock players out of the game. And now every hard hit is a penalty on the defense, Brady said. So I feel like they penalize defensive players for offensive mistakes. I think every defender, and even, every defender I think would agree with what Tom Brady is saying. When I heard this, I was like, he is 100% correct. Like, the NFL and professional sports is the pinnacle of sports. So, we're talking about people that a very small fraction of the population get to do. So, and I'm not saying these aren't people, they aren't machines, they can't do everything. But I think the level of quarterback play that we see from some of the top players in the NFL, I think that should be the standard. If you want as an NFL team to succeed, you want a Tom Brady, you want Drew Brees, you want a Patrick Mahomes, you want a Russell Wilson, you want, who else can you say? Maybe Jared Allen someday. But you want these types of guys. And these guys know those things. But when we're talking about I don't know. I'll just say a rookie because I don't want to call out anybody. But if we're talking about, let's say Trevor Lawrence, for example. I don't think this year he's going to be throwing into coverage or throwing at a receiver and then taking into consideration, is he about to get lit up? But when we're talking about Tom Brady, who is pretty much the best player on the field at reading defenses, he knows, or at least I believe, from the research going into that game, he should know the defensive formations. And based off of the plays they're running, and based off of the formations that they're showing, he should know, roughly where someone's going to be and what defender they're going to end up on. So that should play a role into how he decides to throw the ball. And at the same time, the receiver should also... Man. My baby's waking up. Basically, what I was saying is the receiver should probably be... Well, maybe, more than likely, is expecting that the quarterback is going to put them in a position where they're not going to get lit up. And if they do, the receiver, I feel like, has more than the right to be pissed off at the quarterback in those situations. There are things that I do agree with being banned. Diving at the knees or leading with the crown of the head. Those types of things, I completely agree with the rules around those types of, penalties and stuff like that. But when we're talking about, little stupid things like after the quarterback's tossed the ball or, it's always so hard because in real time, it looks fine. At least to me, I guess. I don't know. But when you slow everything down, it looks way worse. So, I hate this term because everyone loves using it, but in bang-bang situations, a quarterback who's just releasing the ball as the defender is right about to hit them, and then they get a flag because they were literally already in that in that motion, or their momentum was already carrying them forward. I just don't know what the league expects these guys to do. Do they expect them in midair to just roll out? I mean, it's like, who fucking does that? I mean, it's so ridiculous, some of the things that they'll penalize people for. So I guess to try and sum that all up, I agree with Tom Brady. And to hear it coming from someone like him, I think gives that argument so much credibility, especially the way he talked about it. Because he didn't just talk about it in a way that I've ever heard anybody talk about it before. And maybe that's just and if someone has talked about it this way in the past, then I don't know about it. So, good job, Tom Brady, for being honest and not trying to make your job in life easier, essentially. So, yeah. With that, let's move on to the next thing. Pete Carroll. And the Seahawks. Let's just jump into that. So, Seattle has some hold-ins. Duane Brown, we weren't sure what was going on with him. We just know that he was holding out, or hold in. They were coming to practice, but I don't think they were sure what was, if he was going to play week 1 or not. And actually, Pete Carroll had confirmed that, what was this? This was, I think, yesterday. So this was the 6th. So on the 6th, we were still unsure if he was, fans were still unsure if he was going to be playing. And then after the day of practice, it came out that Duane Brown was at practice. He was going to play, but negotiations on his contract that he's holding in for are still ongoing. And then, today, Seattle did end up getting Duane Brown a contract. So it looks like what he ended up working for his final year, and I think this is just a 1-year redo on his contract. I think they just restructured it. So he's going to get $7 million signing bonus and a $4 million salary. But I think what's coming from it is he's going to have a lot of incentives for his contract. So, yeah, I mean, it's good for Seattle because Russell Wilson, the beginning of the offseason was complaining about not having good protection and not having, the ability to sit in the pocket and throw the ball, figure out where he's going to throw the ball. And then when Duane Brown held out, we were just like, this is not the right direction. We thought we had it all figured out. But luckily, Duane Brown will be there. Seattle's offensive line has definitely gotten stronger. I wouldn't say it's, top of the line. We're not talking about, like an Indianapolis or, what's another good offensive line? Can't even think of one. But we're not talking about top of the line. I don't even think we're talking top 7, top 10 offensive lines. I think we're probably somewhere in the middle when it comes to our offensive line. But yeah, this coming Sunday you have Seattle playing Indianapolis. Who do I think is going to win? That's a great question. So, great question for myself. Thank you. Thank you, myself. I mean, I think Seattle's going to win, but I think it's going to come off the back of the defense. Because the first week, I don't think the new play style, the new playbook is going to click right away. Maybe it will. I think one thing that will be very telling is if the new offense is so fast-paced that it keeps the other team on their heels. If that ends up happening, then I think Seattle's got it in the bag. Because I think Seattle's offense definitely has... I think Seattle's defensive line in particular, I think they have the ability to really disrupt the Colts and their run game. I'll be really happy if they can penetrate the offensive line and, put pressure on Carson Wentz on a throw. Because if Wentz can get pressured, then he can start making mistakes. And once that starts happening, then it's all downhill from there for them. So, Seattle, what do I mean, do I have a prediction for the score? Not really. I'll just say, let's see. I think Seattle probably takes, if they can do well on defense, and if the offense can at least be a little productive, if Seattle's offense can at least put up a couple touchdowns, then I could see it being a low-scoring game. Maybe Seattle wins by 3 points to a touchdown, somewhere in there. Seattle likes to keep it close when they play, so that's where I'm getting that from. So, yeah, what else? Tyrod Taylor starting for the Houston Texans. That was one thing I saw. I'm not surprised. Deshaun Watson is still dealing with, whatever legal stuff he's going through. And there was all that stuff going on about Miami potentially wanting him still, but the Texans not wanting to give him up for anything less than, a couple first rounds or a few first rounds and some other stuff. Good job, Tyrod Taylor. I mean, coming back from a season where he essentially got replaced, off of an error, a mistake, not even by his own doing. It was a team doctor stabbed him in the lung before a game and gave Justin Herbert the chance to show everybody that he's ready. So maybe Tyrod Taylor shows, I think if Tyrod Taylor shows up, I don't know. If he shows up and I don't want to say if he balls out because they're playing, I want to say they're not playing a good team, that's for sure. They're playing Jacksonville. If Tyrod Taylor comes out and blows everything out of the water, and by mid-season, if they're above 500 and potentially even, let's say they're 6-3 by mid-season, I think Deshaun Watson's stock starts taking a little bit of a hit because, and I'm not saying that's because Deshaun Watson doesn't show anything. It's just because of the, sitting out a year is a year. And no matter how you slice it, I mean, if you're not playing the game, you're not progressing. Now, unless Deshaun Watson already has it planned out and how he's going to do things, he's going to stay fresh, he's going to do as if he's seasoned, or maybe even continues training throughout the season. I don't know. But if Tyrod Taylor comes in and shows that they didn't need Deshaun Watson, because now they have Tyrod Taylor, I think when it comes to the next, off season, I think that asking price for Deshaun Watson comes down just a little bit. I mean, I know he's still really valuable based off of previous years. But, I mean, maybe instead of 3 first-round picks, maybe 2, and maybe a late second or third, depending on how Houston goes. Well, I should say late, but, I mean, they've had early picks for the last how many years now. And I guess we'll go from there, or they'll go from there and see, how that unfolds. Now, where does he go from there? I know I've talked about last time, the different teams he might go to. I just hope Miami doesn't give up on Tua too early. I understand the whole thing about, we're here to win now and get championships today. But I think it would serve Miami better to develop a guy like Tua into a quarterback that they want. And maybe Tua's not the guy. Maybe he's not the guy that can develop into the starting quarterback that they're hoping for. But you know what? I hope they don't, just start jumping ship on guys, after 1 or 2 seasons, figuring okay, you're not going to get us there. You're not going to get us there. They're in their window right now with other aspects of their team, or in a good place with other aspects of their team. But the quarterback position is just lacking experience at this point. But I think if maybe Tua has a big leap going into this next year, I mean, Miami could be a little dangerous. Could be a little feisty. Now, what else is going on in the news? I really don't know. I did mention Mariners lost to the Houston Astros. That's disappointing because Mariners, I believe they slid into second place in the AL West. So Now they're just behind Houston, and I mean, there's still a possibility that Seattle could. I mean, I don't want to get too hopeful. This is really wishful thinking to think that Seattle could potentially overtake Houston as the number one spot. That's very wishful thinking. But second place, I think, is decent. They're in a really good spot in the league. And I've been watching their games. I mean, when I'm out here working on homework or working on an episode or just whatever, I'll put on one of their games, and I seem to always catch it right at the right times because I think it was a couple nights ago I had caught that they started playing, and I think it remained 3-3 from like the second inning all the way to the 11th. And then Seattle went on like a 7 run, a 7 base run series, whatever. They just 7 runs in one inning, and I was like, holy crap. Like, I chose the right time to start watching this game. I think they were also playing a few days prior to that where I just, was out here doing my thing, and I turned on the game in the ninth inning or the eighth inning, and the game was pretty stagnant up to that point. And then out of nowhere, I guess maybe I just blessed them with my presence or something. They ended up going on a run and winning the game. So maybe I'm just good luck for Seattle, for the Mariners or something. I'll go ahead and take that. You guys don't have to worry about it. But I'm excited. I mean, if the Mariners continue on this trend of winning and sweeping teams, then I mean, we might be looking at maybe a little playoff run for Seattle, which I definitely would be watching. I mean, granted, I'm not huge with baseball, but I definitely am getting into it. I remember having this conversation with someone the year prior, 2019, about John Boy and how he presents baseball in a way that I find entertaining. And through John Boy's content, I've become interested in baseball. Because prior to, all of, watching John Boy or whatever, my thought of baseball was it's boring. And the way I would observe baseball is a pitcher throwing the ball to the catcher and the batter trying to smack it out of the park. Never did I ever think about the little battle that's going on between the pitcher and the catcher and everyone else. So now when I'm watching these games, I actually flip my shit whenever I see a good series of pitching and batting and stuff like that. Like two guys going at it. Like if it's a long at bat, sometimes, I mean, it also depends. There's definitely times where it's like, okay, we're just fouling off, which that in itself is a battle. I mean, it's just the batter, getting the read and everything. But yeah, I definitely see baseball through a different lens now, and I could definitely sit through a game and be entertained watching the little battle going on. So, hopefully my audio didn't get messed up. Okay, we're good. Yeah, other than that, other news, I believe UFC still got a Contender Series is starting, or has started again. I've watched like one episode. Or no, the one episode. I think the other episode came out today, and I definitely missed it. Yeah. So, rather than rambling on about some random stuff, we're just going to wrap this up. So, this will probably go up, I hope, tomorrow. Which would end up being Wednesday, September 8th. So, yeah. Catch me on there. Also, catch me on Twitter at BrandM2012, and then also my Instagram at Behind Any Line Sports, and then subscribe to my YouTube channel because I've got ideas up here, and those ideas sound fun. They just require a lot of work, but that's no problem. Just add to the list of things I got to do, and I'll get it done. So, have a good night, everyone. Talk to you next time.